Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 1 of Research Methodology. Our topic today is about research paradigm. And before we start the presentations, I would like to introduce the member of Group 1. The first speaker is Wen Wahyudi, and the second speaker is me, Hotmaida, and the last speaker is Muhammad Wirariski. Okay, now we are going to the first speaker. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you for moderator. Okay, I would like to explain about the quantitative research. For the first one, we going to definition of the quantitative research. What is the quantitative research? Quantitative research is the collection and analysis of numerical data explain, predict, and or control phenomena of interest. So that definition of the quantitative research, the research to search the collection data with the analysis and based on the numerical data. And then what is the key features of the quantitative research? The quantitative research have the key features. Is it the hypothesis? Why the quantitative research have the key feature of the quantitative research? Because that hypothesis can make that predict the result of the research before the study begins. Controls of the contextual factors that may influence the study collection of data from sufficient samples and the participants, and use of the numerical and approaches to analyze the data to collect the data. Okay, the next page. Okay, what is the characteristic of the quantitative research? Based on the I talked before, the definition of the quantitative research is the research of two numericals, and that should be done is the type of the data collected is the numerical data, and then research problems is the hypothesis. This is the key features of the quantitative research. And then what about the samples? And the samples size is the large, because the quantitative research is have the relation with the statistics and have the many data to the stage is so large, and then relies on the statistical procedures. From that, the characteristic of the quantitative research is the statistical, because the quantitative research have the many have the correlation with the formula to how to get the data, and to answer the hypothesis. And then the participant interaction is the little interactions. And then the characteristic of the quantitative research is underlying belief or measures, understand, and generalize about. Okay, the next page. What is the quantitative approach? There are five the approaches to the quantitative research. For the first one is the survey research, and the second one is correlation research, and then causal comparative research, experimental research, and the single subject research. Next page. Now, we come to the step in the process of the quantitative research. How about the steps? For the first one is the identifying a research problem by description and explanations. And the second one is the reviewing literature, our major role, justification for the research problem, and specification for the need for the study. And then, and the third is selecting participant or sample are specific and narrow measurable observable data. And the next is the collecting the data by the predetermined instruments, numeric large number of individuals. And then analyzing and interpreting data are statistical analysis, description of trends, comparison of group or relationship among variable, and the comparison of result with the prediction and past study. And the last one is reporting and evaluating research are standard and fixed, objective, and unbiased. Okay, the next page. Okay, I think enough for the quantitative research. And then back to moderator.
Di unmute dulu. Kok di unmute mic-nya.
Okay. Okay. Thank you to speaker one. Now we are going to the next topics is about qualitative research. In qualitative research, there are 4 topics that will be discussed. The first is definition of qualitative research and the purpose of qualitative research. The first one is next slide. Okay, the qualitative research definition is the collections, analysis, and interpretation, comprehensive narrative, and visual. And qualitative research is quite difficult, quite different with quantitative research. In quantitative research, the data is numerical, but in qualitative is non-numerical. Now, it is useful for describing and answering questions about participants and context. Okay, the next is the purpose of qualitative research. The purpose is to promote a deep, holistic, and understanding of a particular phenomenon. Next. Okay, now we are going to the 8 characteristic of qualitative research. The first is the researchers immerse themselves in the situations. It means that the researchers are involved in the research situations. The second is the data reflects the participants' perspective. The third one is sources of data are real-world situations or natural context. It means that the data which will the research get found is happen in real situations of the participants. And the next is data is narrative in nature. And the fifth is researchers focus on personal interactions with participants. And the seven is the data are analyzed inductively. The last one is methods provides clear, detailed information reflecting participants' voice. Next. Okay, now we are going to the 6 general steps in doing qualitative research. So the first step that we will do in doing qualitative research is we have to identify the research topic. The second is review the literature. So the reason why we should review the literature is to get the theory that can support problem solving whose research, and the theory established is a welcome step to the researcher to research, to be more understand about the problem that the researcher research about. And the third is select the participants. So how to select the research participant in qualitative research is the first one is we have to make a list. And the second is identify and sample every person. And the third, identify locations. So in doing a qualitative research, we should identify locations. And the fourth is ask the participants whether they want to be participate in our research or not. And after that, we have to contact people. And the sixth is refine your sample. Next. Belum. Back to the previous page. And after that, we have to collect the data. the most common in getting data in qualitative research is the first by doing interview, and the second focus group discussions, observational methods, and document analysis. The fifth is analysis data. In analysis data, we have to prepare and organize the data, and then we have to review and explore the data. This will be require you to read your data probably several times, so you have more understanding about the data. And the last one is and next, create initial codes. After that, you have to review those codes and revise. And after that, you have and then present them in a cohesive manner. And the last one is you have to present your findings or report the result. Next. Okay, there are 9 rank qualitative approach in qualitative research. The first one is a case study. Case study is an effort to seek an understanding of a single person or entity. The next one is an ethnography. Ethnography is an effort to describe and analyze all of part of the culture of a community by identifying and describing participants, practice, and belief. The third is ethology. Ethology is an effort to compare several cultures with one another. And the fourth is ethnomethodology. Ethnomethodology is an effort to examine people's understanding of their daily activities. And the next is grounded theory. Grounded theory is an effort to derive theory grounded in the perspective of the participants. And next is phenomenology. Phenomenology. Phenomenology is an effort to understand the meaning of an individual experiences. And the next one is symbolic interactions. Symbolic interaction is an effort to seek common understanding that emerge to give meaning and participants' interactions. And the next one is action research. Action research is an effort to seek a solutions or improvement to a particular problem in the setting in which is occurring. And the last one is historical research. Historical research is an effort to seek to understand the past by studying documents, relics, and interviews. Next. Okay, I think that is from me. Now we are going to the third speaker, Muhammad Wira Rizky. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you. I will explain about mixed method. So first, we have to know what mixed method design is. So we have to know the definition of mixed method design. So mixed method design is the research in which the investigator collects and analyzes data, interrogates the findings, and draws inferences using both qualitative and quantitative approaches or methods in a single study. So in mixed method, uh, the researcher will use both the qualitative and quantitative approaches in a single study. And the other definition is it involves the collection of uh, qualitative and quantitative data in response to research questions or hypotheses. And it includes the analysis of both forms of data, and the procedures for both qualitative and quantitative data collection and analysis need to be conducted rigorously. Uh, we come to the next. And we come to the types of mixed method designs. So there are some types of mixed method designs. The first one is convergent parallel mixed method design. In this convergent parallel mixed method design, we have to know the description of the design. What is convergent parallel mixed method design? It is when a researcher collects both qualitative and quantitative and analyzes them separately and then compares the result to see the findings or disconfirm each other. So researchers new to mixed method typically first think of this approach because they feel that mixed method only consists of combining the quantitative and qualitative data. And the key assumption of this approach is that both qualitative and quantitative data provide different types of information, often detailed views of participants qualitatively and scores on instruments quantitatively. And together they yield results that should be the same. And then what is the data collection of the convergent parallel mixed method design? So it includes interviews, observation documents, and records. Uh, the qualitative data can be instrument data, observational checklists, or numeric records such as census data. And the key idea with this design is to collect both forms of data using the same or parallel variables, constructs, or concepts. In other words, if the concept of self-esteem is being measured quantitatively, the same concept is asked during the qualitative data collection process, such as in open-ended interview. And the data analysis of this method is the challenge in a convergent mixed method design is how to actually converge or how to merge the data. And the two databases are analyzed separately and then together. There are several ways to merge the two databases. The first approach is called a side-by-side comparison. And this comparison can be seen in the discussion sections of a mixed method studies. Then we come to the interpretation of the data. The interpretation in this convergent approach is typically written into a discussion section of the study, whereas the result section report of the findings from the analysis of both the quantitative and qualitative databases. The discussion section includes a report comparing the results from two databases and notes whether there is convergence or divergence between the two sources of information. And we come to the validity of this approach. Validity using this approach should be based on establishing both quantitative validity and qualitative validity for each database. There are certainly some potential threats to validity in using the convergent approach, and several of these have already been mentioned. So we come to the second method design. It is called the explanatory sequential mixed method design. So what is the explanatory sequential mixed method design? It is a design in mixed method that appeals to individuals with a strong quantitative background or from fields relatively new to qualitative approaches. So it involves a two-phase project in which the researcher collects quantitative data in the first place, and then they analyzes the result and then uses the result to plan the second qualitative phase. The quantitative result typically inform the types of participants to be purposely selected for the qualitative phase and the types of questions that will be asked of the participants. So the data collection in this method, the data collection proceeds into distinct phases with rigorous quantitative sampling in the first phase, and with purposeful sampling the second qualitative phase. The challenge in this strategy is to plan adequately what quantitative result to follow up on and what participants to gather qualitative data from in the second phase. The key idea is that the qualitative data collection builds directly on the quantitative results. We come to the data analysis. The data analysis of this method are analyzed separately in this approach. So the quantitative results are then used to plan the qualitative follow-up. One important area is that the qualitative result cannot only inform the sampling procedure, but it can also point toward the types of qualitative questions to ask participants in the second phase. And then we come to the interpretation. The mixed method researcher will interpret the follow-up results in a discussion section of the study. This interpretation follows the form of the first reporting the quantitative first phase result and then the qualitative second phase result. Then the last one is the validity. In the explanatory sequential mixed method approach, additional validity concerns arise. The accuracy of the overall findings may be compromised because the researcher does not consider and weigh all of the options for following up on the quantitative results. Uh, the last mixed method designs is the exploratory sequential mixed method design. The description of the design is it is an exploratory sequential mixed method in which the researcher first begins by exploring with qualitative data and analysis and then uses the findings in a second quantitative phase. uh, like the explanatory sequential approach, the second database builds on the result of the initial database. The intent of the strategy is to develop better measurements with specific samples of populations and to see if data from a few individuals can be generalized into a large sample of a population. So the data collection in this design, the data collection would occur in two phases with the initial qualitative data collection followed by the second quantitative data collection. Uh, so the challenge in this design is how to use the information from the initial phase in the second phase. We come to the data analysis. In this strategy, the researcher analyzes the two databases separately and uses the findings from the initial exploratory database to build into quantitative measures. And then the interpretation of this design, the researchers interpret the mixed method results in a discussion section of the study. And the last one is the validity. The researchers using this strategy need to check for the validity of the qualitative data as well as the validity of the quantitative scores. So the researchers have to check both of the validity for the qualitative and the quantitative. And the next one is the factors that are important in choosing a mixed method design. The first one is the choice based on outcomes expected. Researchers determine the the outcome anticipated at the end of the mixed method study and then to link it to the types. The second one is the choice based on the how when based on how the data will be used together or integrated. To choose a mixed method strategy beyond considering the outcome anticipated, the researcher needs to consider whether mixed method integration of the two databases will be merged, connected, or embedded. The third one is the choice based on the timing of the data collection. A related factor is timing in mixed method data collection, whether the two databases are collected concurrently at roughly the same time or with one following the other sequentially. The fourth one is choice based on the emphasis placed on each database. The emphasis placed on each database is mixed method research. In mixed method research is also somewhat difficult to determine and to apply to the question of choice. A mixed method study can illustrate the unequal emphasis or priority or weight on both the databases or an unequal emphasis. The fifth one is choice based on type of design most suited for a field. Well, on a practical level, the choice of a strategy depends on the inclination of fields toward certain designs. And the last one is choice based on a single researcher on a team. A final practical reason for choice of a strategy depends on whether a single researcher conducts, for example, a graduate student conducts the study or a term the study or a team of researchers. Okay, I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to the third speaker, Muhammad Wira Rizki. I think that's all of our presentations about research paradigm.